When you come from a dysfunctional family, the family bonds aren't so much as sacred, they're actually survival mechanisms. And sometimes those ties that have bound us become the chains that keep us stuck. When we're kids in dysfunctional families, we create these roles to survive. We understand the role that we have to be safest. We understand the role that we get to be when we want to be like get more attention. We understand the role that when we need to disappear, that's what we can do. These aren't conscious choices. These are survival adaptations that our nervous system has created to keep us safe. The thing is, though, the roles that we've created sometimes are negatively impacting the relationships that we have today. The peacekeeper who can't set boundaries, the rebel who sabotages connection, the invisible one who attracts unavailable partners. We're told family is everything. You have to forgive and forget. Blood is thicker than water. But here's the thing, that original saying was actually the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb, which makes it the complete opposite meaning the bonds you choose are stronger than the bonds that you're born into. Somehow we flipped it to make it the opposite. What if the most loving thing you can do is to recognize where you're being held back by those old family dynamics? I'm Bron Martin, hypno healer and subconscious storyteller. I come from a very dysfunctional family. Yes, I do. And I know firsthand how trauma and abuse can fracture sibling relationships. I became a hypnotherapist in 2017, and since then I have dealt with so many clients and their own family dynamics. And it's hypnotherapy that I turned to when my own sibling relationships completely broke down. Hypno helped me to heal. It helped me to process the grief of losing people when they're still alive, because severing ties isn't something that you enter into lightly. Hypno helped me through that grieving process and into the peace that I needed, into the healing that I needed, because your mind is so powerful, and I'll show you how to use it. Here's what most people don't get about dysfunctional family dynamics. It's not just the trauma that we went through. It's who we created. It's the role that we created to survive in that dynamic. And then now it's how that role is shaping our lives now that we're not in that survival situation. Here's what's fascinating, and I'm sure that you've experienced, whether you've come from like a dysfunctional family or not, when you get together with siblings and family, you regress back to those old roles that you created in your childhood. It's like our nervous system has a blueprint for how to be in that situation, and it locks it in when you're in that situation, reverting back to it automatically. As I mentioned before, I come from a very dysfunctional family. Both of my parents had substance abuse issues. I lived with my mother, and she had a lot of trauma in her life. As a human with compassion, I can see that. I can, empathize with her for that. As her daughter, it was very, very difficult. She turned to prescription medication because she didn't have the resources to work through that trauma. And in fact, she died without having ever worked it through, which is very, very sad. For me as a child, it was terrifying because she was very volatile. She was physically abusive. She was addicted to painkillers, and she was also very emotionally unstable. I have 3 sisters, 2 who I grew up with. We all had completely different childhoods, attached completely different meanings, and had completely different coping mechanisms to get through. I'm not going to go into the roles and relationships and those dynamics because they're not my story to tell. So what I am going to do is I'm going to share the wisdom that I've gleaned through so many years of supporting other women in their own unhealthy family dynamics. Here's what happens in these environments. There's competition. Siblings are pitted against each other. You're being compared. Why can't you be more like your sister? I wish you'd apply yourself like your brother does. Look how well he's doing. Well, he never gives me any trouble like you do. And the parent will use one child's achievements, and in their mind, I'm sure they're just trying to spur the other one on with healthy competition, but it doesn't end up like that. The child is thinking, the parent loves that kid more because the kid got better grades or whatever it is. So, if you're any around my age, like I'm 50 this year, and how we grew up is not how kids are being raised these days. And our parents didn't do it maliciously. They did it without realizing the damage that now my clients are in the chair with me supporting them to unravel all of the damage that's been done with these really destructive family dynamics. There's a lot of guilt. It can be that you avoided punishment when your sibling got it and you felt relieved, but you could hear them getting it. And you're like, that like survivor guilt is that you're glad that you're not getting it, but then you're ashamed of yourself for even feeling like that. Should you speak up? Should you defend them? But you know, if you do that, then you become the target. This is survival. This is your nervous system trying to keep you safe. Here's where it gets really complicated. Siblings will have completely different memories and completely different points of view of the roles that they played in that family. You might remember being the one that was hard done by when your sibling thinks that you were the golden child, that you got off easy, that you got everything you ever wanted. Siblings can resort to trauma trumping, where they insist that what they went through is worse than what you went through. That's not how trauma works. It's not a competition. It's personal. And a lot of it is associated with the meaning that you've placed on events that happened to you in your childhood. Then there are the alliances and loyalty with parents. Maybe one sibling maintained a relationship with an abusive parent when the others cut contact. There's likely still resentment about who got protected, who got believed, who got more support, who got more financial assistance. And then as we get older, and now we're at the age, both my parents have passed away, but many people at my age have got elderly parents that now need to be cared for. And then there's like simmering tensions around inheritance, assets, aged care. It can get really, really complicated. And as decisions need to be made, old wounds get reopened. All of this stems from the original roles that we created as children, and roles work because they keep us safe. The responsible one becomes a family manager, making sure that everything's kind of ticking along. The rebel thinks, well, I'm going to get into trouble anyway, so I may as well be doing what I want. And also doing something negative gets me attention, and it's safer than trying to be positive and failing. The peacekeeper tries to smooth things over, tries to fix things, and is very in tune with everybody else's emotions. The invisible one knows that not being noticed is the safest. The clown breaks the tension with laughter and jokes whenever they can, diffusing situations with humor. If everyone's laughing, then they're not fighting. But the clown as an adult is diffusing even serious conversations and making inappropriate jokes. Hand up, I was the clown. That was my role in the family. That's my role now. And I fall into that. Like I laugh at funerals. Tension equals danger, and I will do whatever it takes to diffuse the tension. The thing is, it actually works for me as a hypnotherapist because quite often we can be talking about something that is so heavy, and then to diffuse it with a light comment is magic. And I often get told by clients how much they appreciate the levity that I can bring into hypno sessions. These roles serve a purpose in that chaotic environment. They help us survive, get attention, and stay safe. But they can also create distance between siblings. You can't have a real relationship when you're all playing survival roles. And here's the thing. Some siblings will go through a traumatic childhood and it will bond them closer together. It will make them so close. And sometimes it will fracture them and it will break them completely apart. Sometimes you can heal together. Sometimes you heal separately. Sometimes one sibling does the healing and the others resist the healing. And sometimes you're just completely different people who have nothing in common as adults. Maybe you chose different paths, different ways of processing. You have different values, and that's all okay too. So now let's take a moment to think about how this affects you. Think about your most challenging relationship now. You can close your eyes if you want to. It could be romantic, it could be work, it could be a friendship, whatever it is. You got that in your mind? Great. Now, you might want to close down your eyes now if you can. If you're driving, please don't do that. Now take yourself back to your childhood home when you were 8. There is tension in the air. Parents may be fighting with a sibling, or maybe, you like houses have energy. It might just be a feeling when you imagine yourself there. There was a lot of fear, guilt, blame, and shame in my house. It wasn't a happy house. So just be in that feeling. You're not going to stay there for long. Notice the role that you're playing when you're 8. Are you disappearing? Are you acting out? Are you being the peacekeeper? Are you scanning the room to see? And many children, no matter what role that you had in a dysfunctional family, become great at reading people because their lives literally depend on it. And then take yourself back now to the relationship that you've been finding challenging. See the role that you're playing in that relationship and how similar it is to the relationship that you had or the role that you played as a child. And the thing is, we can make these roles work for us, right? Like the fact that I can be a clown and that I can bring humor into a situation helps me in my work. I am aware of it though, when I'm using it to get out of having a serious conversation, or I'm using it to deflect, or I'm using it to not do the work on myself. So just being aware of it, and we don't have to make ourselves wrong for it. It's just being aware of when we do it. So a peacekeeper, for instance, sometimes they don't set boundaries. They become a doormat because they just want to please everyone. The peacekeeper is the people pleaser. The person who wanted to be invisible now doesn't speak up in their relationship and they don't assert their own needs. That's damaging. And until you reprogram it at the subconscious level, it's the same dynamic that you're going to be using with new people, thus creating the same dynamic that you had as a child. But here's the deeper question. What do you need right now? Not what your family needs, not what it takes to keep the peace. What you need for your peace, your inner peace, for your growth, for your evolution as a human being. This is about choosing what's best for you now versus what's best for the family dynamic. It's about setting and honoring your own boundaries, whatever that looks like. Pay attention to how you feel after you spend time with family members versus how you feel after you spend time with friends who truly see you and support you. Because why would we be choosing to spend time with people who, if we really looked at it, aren't in our corner? They're not cheering us on. They don't want the best for us. And if that's your reality right now with siblings, then you get to create distance and space, whether it's by limiting time, whether it's by going no contact, whether it's by setting boundaries of this is what I'm willing to accept, whether you stand up for yourself or you just create that distance to keep yourself safe. Here's something liberating. You no longer have to answer for who you were to get through your childhood. It was a survival mechanism. It was your subconscious mind and your nervous system keeping you safe, running survival patterns. You don't have to defend your memories or justify your experiences. You don't have to indulge in trauma trumping or compete over who suffered more. You can accept that your sibling had a completely different experience to you, and you can release the need to make them understand yours. It no longer matters whether they validate your reality. What matters is your own healing. And that can't happen when you're proving your pain or comparing your worth. The key is releasing any guilt over what you need to do now for your own mental health, for your own safety, for your own peace of mind, for your own growth as a human being. You're not the same person who needed those survival strategies. You get to choose differently now. If you want more insights like this on how your subconscious mind works on a whole variety of topics that impact every part of your life, then be sure to subscribe and hit that bell for notifications so you don't miss a thing. And if you are ready to let go of those intrusive thoughts, you know, like when you're daydreaming, you remember that time you were staring at your teacher and then he thought you had a crush on him and you didn't. We don't need to be thinking about that from when you were 7. Then you can download the intrusive thought incinerator and incinerate those thoughts once and for all. Just go to bron.cc/intrusive and download your free copy today. This has given you a little taste of what's possible when you recognize those patterns that have been holding you back. You know what creates real, lasting change? Rewriting and reprogramming these family stories at the very deepest level in the subconscious mind. And that's what we do in my Tranceform membership. There are specific recordings for healing sibling wounds, releasing family patterns, and reprogramming your worth beyond these survival roles. And you can go and give it a go for yourself for only $1 for 10 days. See for yourself how you like it. And after that, it's only $12 a month. So go on over, check it out, and see for yourself. Remember, it's only when you challenge your reality that you get to change your reality. And you can start changing your reality today.